Okay, so sorry about that. We had a very long and vigorous discussion, very respectful of everyone's view in our caucus. It was good. And I hope everyone had a nice holiday. And because we love you so much, we kept you here, so you might have to go home in the snowstorm. No, that's a joke. Terrible joke. Okay. I want to thank Senators Murray and Murphy and Smith for joining us. As 2024 kicks off, three things are true. First, a lot of work to do. We started with funding the government and working towards a national security supplemental. Second, only one way we'll get any of this done: bipartisan. Third, we're off to a good start. This weekend, I announced, along with congressional leadership and President Biden, a top-line agreement to keep the government funded and avoid a shutdown. Senator Murray, who you'll hear from shortly, and all the other appropriators will work doggedly to draft the appropriations. We have only 10 days until the first deadline. And the good news is I think all four appropriators, the four corners, Senator Murray, Senator Collins, Representative Granger, Representative DeLauro, want to get this done as fast as possible. Our goal is to roll up our sleeves and try to get this done, period. From the beginning, we had one goal in mind as Democrats: keep the non-defense level at $772.7 billion. That's the exact number that we agreed to in June last year when we avoided default. That was our North Star. We have not cut one nickel from that, despite the hard right's desire to bully us and bully their own caucus into cutting the number way back, which would never have gotten a majority support in the House, let alone the Senate. We protected our vital priorities like housing programs, veterans benefits, health care, nutrition programs, small business support, and clean energy investments. We're very proud of that. Democrats said no to the draconian cuts. Democrats said no to rescissions that would hurt housing assistance for millions of Americans secured by Democrats and Biden. We said no to any changes that would alter the climate change benefits that we put into the IRA. We fought to keep the defense number identical to the NDAA. We did. And the agreement kept many of our priorities. Protected our accomplishments from the last Congress, and most importantly, will hopefully is the first step in avoiding a lengthy, costly government shutdown. There's much more to do. Agreeing to a top-line number is important, but so is the next step in Patty Murray's capable hands, and that is translating the number into 12 appropriations bills that can pass the Senate, pass the House, and reach the President's desk. But if House Republicans bend to the whims of the hard right and corrode the appropriations process with poison pills and extremist proposals, then they will be responsible for moving us closer to a shutdown. Hakeem and I have agreed, no poison pills, and that's enforceable because the House will need Democrats to pass any bill, and the Democrats there will say no poison pills. One final point. This 30 or so group of hard right people, they think they can bully everybody, threaten everybody. They don't represent the American people. They don't even represent a majority of Republicans. That's why they can't even pass appropriations bills over there. And we are going to stand firm and strong, insist on bipartisanship. No, we have to come to agreement with Republicans and get that done. Supplemental. Senate Democrats remain committed to working with our Republican colleagues on passing a national security supplemental. The negotiators have been hard at work. They worked through New Year's. They worked through the whole break. I must have talked to the administration, to Sinema, to Murphy, 5, 6, 7 times a day during the break. I tried to restrain myself on Christmas and only made one call. But we were working 24/7, 24/7, because this is so difficult. We all know how difficult it is to deal with immigration. It hasn't been easy, but it's a matter of national urgency. And the word in these negotiations has been and must continue to be persistent. We're going to be persistent. And I am hopeful that we're going to get something meaningful done. We know that Congress has not acted on on immigration in a comprehensive way in decades, so it shouldn't surprise anyone it's going to take some time. Of all the difficult issues we face in the chamber, immigration is one of the most difficult. But regardless of how difficult it is, much hangs on our success. The world is watching how the U.S. responds. Our friends are watching. I read from some Ukrainian colonel or officer that for every one salvo he can fire, the Russians can fire 5 back. We cannot let Ukraine down, and that's why we are just going to be persistent and persistent and persistent till we get it done. As I said, I am more hopeful today than I've ever been. We are closer today to an agreement. We're not there yet. There are a few outstanding issues, but we're closer to agreement than we have ever been. That's all good news. Patty.
That's all good news, Patty. All right. After really months of needless delay caused by House Republicans going back on their word, we do now have a spending framework that ultimately maintains the overall funding levels Congress agreed to last year and allows us to finally get to work negotiating and passing bipartisan, bicameral funding bills. This is a critical step that lets us move forward, and we have no time to lose. I'm working with my colleagues in both chambers now to begin hammering out our final bills, and my staff and I will be working around the clock until we get this done. But make no mistake, negotiating final funding bills is no walk in the park. We are all working nonstop right now to get this done, but we are obviously crunched for time. It is obvious to anyone who's watched weeks and months go by as House Republicans insisted on renegotiating the very deal that they cut. And let's be clear, we will not be able to get any of our bills done if House Republicans insist on partisan poison pills that we all know are non-starters. So let me repeat, Democrats will not accept Republican poisonous pills, no changes, period. Every single decision we made in these bills has huge implications for our communities. We owe it to our constituents to treat this work seriously. That means not using a shutdown threat to push extreme partisan policies, and it means working together to avoid senseless and costly shutdowns and pass reasonable bills that help our constituents. So now that we have this agreement, I hope we can all work together quickly to keep this process on a productive bipartisan track, and I hope we keep that momentum going to address the other pressing challenges that Leader Schumer spoke to, getting aid to our allies and delivering critical humanitarian relief, addressing the child care crisis, and so much more. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Murphy. Senator Murphy.
Thank you, Senator Schumer. I apologize. I'm losing my voice. I'm here to report on my Christmas vacation with James Lankford and Kirsten Sinema. Listen, Senator Schumer is right. We are closer to an agreement than we have been since the beginning of these talks. I'll say what I've said before. I wish that we weren't in this position. I wish that Senate Republicans supported Ukraine aid because they believe in Ukraine. I wish that we weren't conditioning support for Ukraine upon the resolution of the most difficult issue in American politics, immigration reform. But we are where we are, and we are trying our best to get an agreement that gives the administration new tools to be able to better manage the border while living up to basic fundamental American values. And so we worked throughout the break. I'm thankful to both the leaders' team and also Senator McConnell's team for being a big part of those negotiations. We still have a handful of issues that are outstanding, but I was able to brief the Democratic caucus just now on some of the basics of the topics that are up for discussion. And I know that Senator Lankford is planning to do the same thing tomorrow with his caucus. I'll just finally say this. I think we are interested as Democrats in providing the administration with tools that will help better manage the border. We are not interested in taking away from the administration tools that they use today to help better manage the border. And so when we talk about this topic of parole, it is very important to understand that it is used today as a way that the administration is able to better manage the flow in a planful way of individuals to the border. I think we can bridge the differences that remain, but we are at the table in pursuit of a simple idea, living up to American values while presenting this administration and future administrations with better tools to be able to effectively manage the border, and hopefully we'll have good news to report to our colleagues and you all very soon.
Senator Smith.
Thank you very much. Happy New Year, everyone. I just want to reiterate a couple of things that my colleagues have said. The first is that passing this bipartisan budget agreement is the only responsible path forward for Congress. It is a strong bipartisan bill that mirrors what the House and the Senate passed earlier last year, and it needs to pass again as quickly as possible. And let's be clear about what these spending bills do. They cover the basic needs of Americans, such as nutrition assistance, veterans benefits, and they allow us to proceed with local projects that are extremely important to districts, red districts and blue districts all over the country. So I hope that our Republican colleagues, especially our Republican colleagues in the House, will cooperate in getting this done, and understanding that any attempt to include policy writers that do not have bipartisan support, these so-called poison pills, are a non-starter, and we shouldn't be wasting our time doing things that are not going to contribute to passing a bipartisan bill. And I also just want to take a moment to say that we cannot underestimate the consequences of a government shutdown, which would be felt by millions of Americans if that is what we come to, if we don't move with great speed. It is our job to think about those Americans, and it's also our jobs to think about federal employees and federal contract workers that work in every single state in this country, and what impact a federal shutdown would have on them when they lose their paychecks, including those contract workers who never get that money back again. It is also a very bad time. There's never a good time for a federal government shutdown, but this is a particularly bad time for a federal government shutdown, as our allies around the country, around the world, are looking at us and wanting to build confidence in what this country and this government is able to do. So let's get this done. Let's get this done as quickly as possible. And before I go, I just want to make one announcement. I want to make sure that everybody knows that in December, I became the grandmother twice over of 2 children, and I would be happy to share their pictures when this press conference is over. June and Siggy. Thanks, everyone.
Questions? Yes. 2 little grandchildren. Yes. Look, our goal is to get this done as quickly as possible, and we are working really, really hard. That's the bottom line. Yes.
Was that ever part of the calculus, though, when you got that top line out there, that a CR would have to be part of this? You announced this on Sunday, and there's just not enough time to process that by Friday.
Well, you know, the appropriators and their staffs are really good. We have real consensus among the 4 corners that they want to get something done. We're going to fight as hard as we can to get this done as soon as possible. Yes. You're next. Nope, he's first.
Should there be hearings down the road looking into how this situation was reported in terms of Secretary Austin's health?
That'll be up to the Armed Services Committee. Yes.
I was going to ask about that, but following up on the Ukraine and border security discussion, is there a world in which the immigration policy gets attached to a spending bill and Ukraine gets addressed separately?
Look, at the moment, we're working forward on both issues, and we want to get both of them passed. We'll figure out the best way to get both of them passed. Yes.
Hi. Can you tell me a little bit about what it was like working with Speaker Johnson on getting this
Yeah.
bill? Because it was really your first.
He's a very decent, respectful guy, unlike some who want to be, you know, macho and bullying and threatening and all that. He's not like that, but he's in a very, very difficult position. Last one.
How long should a continuing resolution go?
I'm not going to speculate, as we said. We're going to work hard to get this done in as soon and quick a way as possible. Thank you.